Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? My name is Blitzwinger, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to a brand new FanBoyPotion video, and today we are discussing WWE Fastlane pay-per-view prediction time. As you can see, we have the triple threat main event, which is, of course, the #1 contenders matchup between Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar. We will get to that in just a moment. That will be our final match to be discussed. So let's fire through the predictions again. I will go ahead and give my predictions as to what will happen. I will also kind of discuss what I would rather see happen, and of you lovely folks in the comment section below, let me know who you think is going to be winning the matchups tonight at the pay-per-view. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from all of you lovely folks, so let me know. Can't wait to see what you guys say. Oh, look at that, Roman in his new attire. Yeah, I gave him a new jacket or something, but yeah. So nonetheless, let's get rocking rolling. We're gonna kick things off with the Intercontinental Championship match between the matchup between Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler. Both guys are awesome, but the problem is they've been feuding for so long. They've been having matches for no reason for so long. It really is very difficult to care about this match. So I was just kind of surprised that they were going to do this matchup. I don't really get the whole feud here. I'm not really sure what it's all about. Not a big fan of this particular feud either. But nonetheless, if I had to pick who's going to be walking away as the winner, gotta go with Kevin Owens. I think that's what should happen anyways, and hopefully that sets up Kevin Owens to have somewhat of a high-profile matchup defending the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. We then move on to the Divas Championship match between Charlotte and Brie Bella. Of course, Brie has an insane amount of momentum right now after the events that transpired with her husband, Daniel Bryan, who... that speech, I mean, very emotional, hit me right in the feels, and I don't know. I'm very surprised if there are any people who couldn't at least tear up a little bit during that speech, because that was just insanely emotional. Nonetheless, let's continue the discussion for the matchup itself at hand between Brie Bella and Charlotte. I really think that Charlotte should and will walk away as the winner. I know that Brie's got an insane amount of momentum, but I think that really what makes most sense as far as the storyline and everything. Plus, imagine how much more heat you could get on Charlotte if she cheats to win. It would be ginormous. It would be huge. It would be a big moment for her to build up momentum as a true heel. And then you set up Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Charlotte in a triple threat at WrestleMania for the title. That would be absolutely golden. Speaking of which, let's move on to the tag team matchup for the women's division, which is, of course, or they call it the Divas division, but come on, let's just call it the women's division. Come on, let's get with the times, WWE. Nonetheless, Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks versus Naomi and Tamina, Team Bad, of course. I think that Becky and Sasha should win this, obviously, again, aligning themselves and positioning themselves for that position in the triple threat matchup. Plus, what I would like about that is they could win, and then let's say Becky or Sasha, again, they start fighting, setting us up for Monday Night Raw. You start the build for the triple threat. I think that makes perfect sense, honestly. That is that. Let's move on then to the New Day appearing on the Cutting Edge Peep Show. I think that's going to be a really funny and fun segment. Anytime that Edge and Christian and New Day have been in the same frame within a camera, it's always been fun and entertaining. So I'm sure that this is going to be a bunch of fun. Plus, I'm sure that they're going to use this to build up the WrestleMania match, which I wouldn't be surprised if we end up getting a TLC match at WrestleMania with, let's say, the Dudleys, the Usos, and the New Day. And those are the three that they utilize for that, because I think that's a really intriguing matchup, and I think it would be really interesting to see how that match would go. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is what they use to set that up. Let's continue and kind of fire along the way. I know that I'm actually flying through a lot of these matchups very quickly, and the main reason for that is because obviously there's a lot of matchups to discuss, and there's a couple matchups that are particularly important to discuss in more detail. So let's get rocking and rolling here with the next matchup, which is the United States champion Kalisto defending his title once again against Alberto Del Rio in a 2 out of 3 falls match. One of my favorite stipulations in all of wrestling is the 2 out of 3 falls. I think it creates a lot of excitement if done correctly, and as a result of that, I'm very excited for this match, especially because, again, Kalisto and Alberto can go, and usually they've put on at least interesting matchups, so I would love to see these two go on for a decent amount of time. Like if they could get 25, maybe even 30 minutes, that would be tremendous. And I think they could put together a very, very intriguing matchup that will hopefully have us on the edge of our seat and kind of keep things exciting throughout the entire contest. Now, who do I think should walk away as the winner? I think Kalisto should retain the belt and kind of secure his position going into WrestleMania. And then you could set up maybe Kalisto versus Neville, or Kalisto versus... let me think here. It would be, I don't know. I mean, they could do obviously like champion versus champion, have Kalisto versus Kevin Owens, but I don't know. I feel like you're better off to have Kevin Owens facing off against someone else, and I would love to see Neville and Kalisto go at it, because I think that would be a very intriguing matchup between those two. Both have a lot of high-flying maneuvers, and it would just be very, very exciting to watch. So I think that would make perfect sense. So again, I think Kalisto will win, and I think Kalisto should win. Then we have the Titans, as they're calling them, of the WWE versus the Wyatt family. So they will be Ryback, Big Show, and Kane versus the Wyatt family. Interesting. I'm not too sure if they've clarified if it's going to be 3-on-3 or 3-on-4 in terms of the configuration of the match, because it will be interesting if they go into a handicap situation. Doesn't really matter what occurs. I think the Wyatt family wins this match and walk away as the winners. That's the thing that makes most sense, in my personal opinion, is for that to happen. I think you let the Wyatts go over here and continue to build their momentum and build them up as a dominant force. My only concern about this match is that they're gonna essentially make everyone look bad on the Wyatt family apart from Braun Strowman. I think that is my only concern, is that I hope that most of the team comes out of this thing looking like $1 million. At least that's my hope for this particular matchup. So with that in mind, we have one other matchup that is just been announced, of course, on SmackDown. So I'm recording this late on Thursday night, technically I guess really early on Friday morning, and that is AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho 3. I love the way that this has been booked. It has been so fun to see this matchup, this series of matches between these two. This is what I think Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler could have been, but it lacked any story. And I love the way that this is being done. I love this kind of one-upmanship between the two. Each one has got a W in their corner, and I would love to see this match really kind of steal the night and be the match of the night, because I think that that's what these guys can do. I feel like it took them a couple of matches to like get their chemistry together and kind of figure it out, and I think now we're in for hopefully a very, very cool treat in a matchup between Jericho and AJ Styles. The only concern I have is that there is a chance that Miz gets involved in this somehow, because he's been involved in the storyline in many ways so far. So I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe interferes in the match, or in some way maybe double disqualifies both men, so we could set up a WrestleMania match, because then what they could do is they could have the blow-off triple threat match between Miz, AJ, and Styles. Sorry, Miz, AJ, and Jericho. Styles and AJ is the same person, but have a triple threat contest on SmackDown or on Raw. You blow off that match that way, and then once again you set up Jericho versus Styles at WrestleMania, which would be awesome and very fun to watch. And then we get to the main event of the evening, and that is Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, triple threat match, exactly what we've been looking here on the screen, or looking at on the screen. And of course, whoever wins this matchup goes on to WrestleMania to face off against Triple H. Now, let's talk about what is the most likely scenario to happen, and the scenario that I think most people would be quite unhappy with and not particularly excited about the direction that would go in. And the most likely thing to occur, in my opinion, is this. The Wyatt family interferes in some way, eliminating Brock Lesnar from this match to kind of take out the last big behemoth of the WWE after they win their matchup earlier in the night. Then we have Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose go at it, and Roman is able to be the winner, moving on to the main event of WrestleMania against Triple H. That's the most likely scenario, with Dean Ambrose then probably going up against Kevin Owens, I'm guessing, for the Intercontinental Championship. I think that would be a very poor decision, in my personal opinion. I think that just, in my opinion, doesn't really buy you any favors. Look at that spear from Roman Reigns. Nicely done. And I just think it doesn't really put anybody in the match in a better position, so to speak. So I personally would not be the biggest fan of that. I don't actually mind all that much Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family getting involved in the matchup and costing maybe Brock the match to set up Wyatt versus Brock, because I think that could be a decent matchup for Bray Wyatt. Again, he would obviously lose at WrestleMania because he's not beating Brock Lesnar. I just don't see that happening. in any way, shape, or form. Unless if some way, obviously, the Wyatts cost Brock the match again, and that allows him to win as a result of that. But nonetheless, that's a story for another time and a video for another time, really. But essentially, what I would rather happen if they want to have Brock versus Bray at Mania, I think Dean Ambrose should go over. I think it makes more sense for Dean Ambrose to win the match. It would be shocking. It would be exciting. It would be something that we would not expect. Nobody would be like, oh, well, you know, we all expected that one to happen, so, you know, there would be an actual element of surprise. Plus, from what I believe, Fastlane is actually taking place in Ohio, I want to say, right? Is that where Dean is from? I'm pretty sure. Is it Cincinnati? I'm not even too certain. But it's in his hometown, which would be, again, imagine the reaction he would get there. Especially if, let's say, Roman Reigns and... the ideal thing is obviously Roman Reigns goes heel. That's what I think would be the biggest turn of events, is if Roman Reigns actually turns here. But then you have to think, okay, but who does he face off against at WrestleMania? It doesn't really leave you all that many options as to who does Roman go up against. You could do a heel Roman Reigns versus a babyface Brock Lesnar for maybe future #1 contendership, and Dean Ambrose contending against Triple H. All I'm saying is that I, personally, the way I would like to see it happen is I think it would be the best if Dean Ambrose walked away from this match as the winner. I think that would be the biggest surprise of the bunch, and I think that sets up the most kind of exciting matchup at WrestleMania, where, you know, you could say, it's definitely not the biggest match. I know that Dean Ambrose, you could say, is not as big of a star as Brock Lesnar. Like, on paper, Brock versus Triple H makes the most sense. That's the biggest, like, money match, so to speak. Like, that's the most regular fan knows both of those guys. But I just think that we don't really want to see Brock Lesnar versus Triple H again. And at the same time, I think that, again, whoops, okay, this is interesting. I think he might top him out there. Oh, nope, he didn't. But again, all I'm trying to say is this. I just think that would set up a very exciting situation where Dean Ambrose is in a position where we could realistically be like, oh, well, he is a big underdog, and will he actually defeat Triple H? Can he actually defeat Triple H? And I think that that just sets up this really intriguing situation between the two, where we would be excited to find out what actually happens at WrestleMania. We would not be certain that he would be winning, and I think that that's very, very cool and exciting. Plus, I think in the last few weeks, Dean Ambrose has had this really, really good resurgence of where the promos that he's cut were a lot more, like, less goofy and silly, and a lot more like, yeah, I'm crazy, but not like crazy like, oh, I'm the lunatic fringe. I'm just never gonna stop. You can keep taking me down and keep beating me down, but I'm gonna keep getting back up, and then you're gonna be the one that's going like, what the heck am I supposed to do to this guy? Like, I don't know if I could last this long against this dude. And I think that that really puts Dean Ambrose's character in a different position now, where I think he can be taken a lot more seriously. Because for me, I didn't really like a lot of the over-exaggerated, goofy stuff that Dean does oftentimes in the ring, and he's really done away with that in the last few weeks here. He's been doing less and less of that, so I really enjoyed what he's been doing recently, and because of that, I would like to see him win. But again, as far as my prediction, who's going to be winning, Roman Reigns wins. Brock Lesnar, Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, and Kevin Owens is probably what we all end up getting at WrestleMania. What would I like to get? I would rather get probably, I don't mind Brock versus Bray. I think that will be decent. Dean Ambrose versus Triple H, and Roman Reigns potentially maybe turns heel here. And if John Cena comes back in time, you could do a matchup against John Cena. Hey, you could do Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. That could be an interesting match. Roman Reigns versus, who else is a viable babyface, so to speak, that he could go up against right now? I mean, those would probably be the two biggest one, is Roman, Cena, Roman, and my goodness gracious, Roman and Undertaker. Those would be probably the two biggest matchups that you could put Roman Reigns in. If he turns heel in this match, that would probably be the match that makes sense for him. So again, that's what I would personally like to see happen. I think that's a much more exciting matchup configuration, because I just think it puts a lot more question marks out there, and whenever there is uncertainty in wrestling, that's always nice. When you are not 100% sure of what will happen, I think that creates excitement, because if Roman wins, and he's most likely to win this triple threat match. He goes on to WrestleMania. We're 100% certain he's gonna be beating Triple H, and then we're gonna do the whole thing of, oh, well, now the Authority needs to get back at him, which feels like we've done that a lot lately. So I think Dean Ambrose presents a much more viable hero, much more realistic personality into that position right now. Roman Reigns can be a heel for a little while. He could even rival Dean Ambrose for that title after WrestleMania, and then maybe Seth Rollins returns, you throw him into the mix, and there's a lot more possibilities, I think, that create a positive result in that configuration. So with that in mind, ladies and gents, there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this Fastlane predictions video. We were kind of all over the place with the main event because there's a lot of thoughts that I have on it, and I think that honestly the card itself is very exciting. It's got a lot of potential. Like, we will see. I think this will be a very important telltale kind of a special event or pay-per-view, because it will really show us where they're going creatively into Mania. And I think that they have an opportunity here to do a lot of exciting stuff. I think they have the opportunity to set up some very, like, whoa, that's going to happen at Mania, and that's going to happen. Like, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff that I think they could do here with, you know, the main event, AJ Jericho, the New Day involved in the Cutting Edge Peep Show, Kevin Owens and the way that he goes forward out of this thing, and the United States Championship, I think, can come out of this whole thing golden as well. Plus the Wyatts can be fixed up a little bit, which they definitely could use. So I'm really, really actually very, very optimistic about where this will go. If they go with the all obvious routes that we are all expecting, that's going to be unfortunate, but I guess only time will tell, and we'll find out how this whole thing unfolds. As always, ladies and gentlemen, have an absolutely fantastic day. Leave your suggestions and predictions in the comments section below, and I will catch all of you lovely folks next time. Peace out, cheerleaders and alligators. Bye-bye, everyone.